All right. So, hi everyone. Welcome to this morning's webinar on identifying fake science. My name's Bree. I'm the Health Promotion Coordinator at Arthritis Queensland, and presenting with me today is the beautiful Jess. She's our Health Promotion Manager for Arthritis Queensland and New South Wales as well. So today we're going to be presenting this webinar on fake science. So we'll take a closer look into what it is, what it actually means, and how it can impact your ability to know fact from fiction. All right, I'm just going to pass it over to Jess.
Thanks, Bree. So as always, this presentation contains general information and advice. So of course, always consult with your doctor or healthcare provider to obtain individual medical advice or treatments. And first of all, in the spirit of reconciliation, Arthritis Queensland and Arthritis New South Wales acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So what will we be covering in today's webinar? So I just want to acknowledge Bree has done a lot of the work on sort of pulling together some of the information on today's webinar, which has sort of been, it's a tricky one to sort of present, and hopefully we've made it as relevant to you all as we can, but definitely feel free to ask questions at the end so we can ensure that it is as relevant as possible. So today we will be covering a few different topics. So what is fake science? Recognizing the warning signs of fake science, so including some common red flags to look out for, manipulation of data and dubious sources of information. We'll hopefully gain insights into why people are drawn to fake science, and gain knowledge about the hierarchy of reliable resources and how we can critically evaluate scientific information to help us make informed decisions and avoid falling for fake science, which can be really tricky to identify sometimes. So first of all, what is fake science? So fake science, or you may sometimes hear it referred to as things like pseudoscience, is a type of information or claims that may sound scientific but aren't based on reliable evidence or proper scientific methods. So it can include ideas, theories, or practices that lack credible support from scientific research or are not backed by rigorous experiments, peer review, or scientific consensus, which we'll touch on some of those things in a moment. So in more simpler terms, fake science is like pretending to be something scientific, but it's actually not real or trustworthy. So it can be misleading and may lead people to believe things aren't true or effective. Things that aren't true or effective. So we're going to show a couple of examples of fake science headlines. So Bree, as she mentioned, she popped together a little poll. So we've got two headlines here. And we'll just ask everyone if you, it should come up on your screen, just to cast your vote on which headline or article is based on fake science.
So do you think it's the Trump headline? Do you think it's fake, or do you think it's the coconut oil one? Oh, great work. We've got some results coming in, and the results are all anonymous, so we don't actually know what you have selected as well. So it'll just show us what everyone thinks is the fake headline. We've got a couple of more people. Wait, and it's looking like you're all doing really, really well. All right, so I think we'll end it. So you're all correct. It was definitely the coconut oil that is the fake headline. So well done, everyone. That's, you know, I'll let Jess explain why it's fake. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, so I mean, I think Bree maybe tried to trick us with having a picture of Donald Trump there, you know, the king of calling out fake things. But yes, the coconut headline was the fake one there. So, well, based on sort of, I guess, fake or untrue information. But certainly, I think for a lot of people, it probably grabs their attention. and makes them want to read more about it and perhaps believe that it's something that's true. So lots of fake headlines or stories have these suggestive and sensationalized headlines that tend to draw people's attention in and want to read more about them. So we also have another example here of another fake science claim that can be found on Google. So the article that it's showing is around chlorophyll, and that chlorophyll is plant blood and almost identical to our red blood cells. It cleanses our blood and binds with heavy metals, helps remove them from the body, cleanses our bowel, oxygenates and alkalizes our blood. So if you do look more information, closely at the information and where it's come from, it takes you to some sort of sketchy websites and not true scientific data. So it can be really difficult sometimes to identify whether the information you read on Google is true and coming from legitimate sources. So we've come up with some, I guess, warning signs that will take you through on what to look for when reading science and news online. So let's sort of work through some of those. So I guess, first of all, it's important to note that while some things you may read might have some of these warning signs, it does not necessarily mean that it is fake science, but it could just be something worth, I guess, being wary of and getting more information. So by researching more or speaking with your doctor or healthcare provider. So the first one we've got is a little bit of a tricky one because we don't always have access to this information. So looking for if it has peer review research behind it. So one way that we assess the credibility of scientific research is to see if it's undergone peer review. So this involves independent experts in the field evaluating the study's methods, results, conclusions before it's published, and it provides an additional layer of scrutiny and helps weed out, I guess, poorly conducted or biased research. Unfortunately, most of us don't have access to peer review research, and we also aren't trained in how to evaluate it, which can be quite difficult in sort of, reading a piece of research and understanding if it's applicable to what we're looking for, if it's applicable to us. But I guess the key thing here is it's important to understand that evidence-based interventions often go through many steps of research and science processes before being approved for use. So if you're unsure if there is sort of peer review research supporting something, it's something to be wary of. The next one is being aware of anecdotal evidence. So fake science may often rely heavily on anecdotal evidence. And by this, we mean, personal testimonials or individual case studies to support claims. We know that they can be very compelling, and therefore they're a good way to convince people to try something or to use something. And while a testimonial or case study may very well sometimes be true and may actually be, someone's real experience, they're not necessarily reliable because they can be subjective and may be influenced by various factors like placebo effects or biases. So when looking for what research has been done on something, it's good to look for studies that rely on large sample sizes and rigorous scientific methods. With that being said, it's also important to note that not all testimonials are bad, and there are a lot of great services and programs that use them in their marketing. But I guess it's about recognizing misleading or subjective anecdotal evidence. So, when you see articles or papers that have anecdotal evidence of, someone saying I lost, 20 kilograms or I don't have pain anymore since using this product, that can be a red flag and something to be wary of. Particularly if it's sort of not supported by research done on larger cohorts of people as well. And the reason being is that we're all physiologically different and may react differently to different interventions or treatments. So we can't rely on just knowing, how a treatment has helped just one or two people. The third warning sign is looking for claims that are too good to be true. So being aware of studies making sensational claims that seem too good to be true, as they're probably not real or have been exaggerated. So this could include things, again, like weight loss. It's something we see a lot of fake science around weight loss, or curing pain, or complete cure of conditions. These things are very complex areas, so anything claiming to be a quick fix or a single solution should certainly be wary of. Scientific progress is usually incremental and breakthroughs are rare. So extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And if a study is making sweeping statements without solid backing, it certainly is a warning flag. So our fourth warning sign for fake science is cherry-picked data. So manipulation of data is a common tactic in fake science. So researchers may selectively present data that supports their hypothesis while leaving out contradictory evidence. So always be wary of studies or claims that lack transparency or fail to disclose their methods and sources of funding. These can be hard to recognize with limited access we have when it comes to searching through journal articles and papers. So it's worth mentioning to your doctor or specialist and seeing if they can also give you guidance in this space. A lack of reproducibility. So scientific findings should be reproducible, meaning that other researchers can conduct similar experiments and achieve comparable results. So if studies' findings cannot be replicated by independent researchers, again, it raises doubts about whether the study results are real. Evaluate the funding source. So look at who is funding the research and whether they have any conflicts of interest. Studies funded by certain companies may be biased towards promoting their products, of course. So always look for transparency regarding funding sources and potential conflicts of interest in the study's disclosures. It's also important to note that just because a company has put funding into research, it doesn't always mean the results are not reliable. But of course, it is something to be aware of and look further into. So just a few more warning signs. So number 7, suspicious sources of information. So this might include websites or publications that lack credibility or are known for promoting pseudoscience or misinformation. Always check the credentials of authors and the reputation of the publication before trusting the information presented. One thing I've noticed quite a few times is sometimes as well you might see, an article or something that's written by a doctor, but they may not provide more information. So it's always good to look more into that and see what they are a doctor of, because really they could be a doctor of something that, isn't even medical or health related and may not be relevant to what they are promoting or the space that they're working in. So number 8, incomplete or misleading citations. So always check the citations within a research paper. Again, it may not be something that we all have access to, but fake science may rely on outdated or irrelevant studies to support their claims. Misrepresenting the findings of cited studies or taking them out of context is a common tactic to manipulate the study's results. And just finally, consult multiple sources. So it's important to check multiple sources of information and consider whether the study's results are consistent among other studies. If a claim is not supported by other experts in the field or contradicts current scientific knowledge, again, it's something to be wary of and to look further into. And just again, just wanted to mention that if something you read may have some of these warning signs, again, it doesn't always mean it is fake science, but could possibly be something to be wary of, and always important to get more information by sort of looking into other sources, finding more information, or speaking with your doctor or healthcare professional. And I will pass over to Bree now to cover the next section.
Thanks so much, Jess. So we thought we'd touch on the impact that fake science can have with people with arthritis. So it can really, really have significant negative effects, and it can affect your health, your well-being, and also, really importantly, your treatment decisions. So the first one we're going to touch on is it may inhibit or delay or result in ineffective treatment options. So you may come across misinformation that promotes unproven or ineffective treatments. So if you rely on these fake remedies instead of evidence-based medical interventions, you may experience delays in seeking proper treatment or fail to manage your condition effectively. And this also may worsen your arthritis symptoms. So, for example, using unproven supplements or alternative therapies without medical supervision may cause adverse reactions or interfere with your prescribed medications. Fake science can also have an impact on your financial well-being, and as we all know, some fake science treatments for arthritis can come with a really hefty price tag, and these may promise those quick fixes or miracle cures, and you may end up spending significant amounts of money on ineffective or unnecessary treatments. And this may lead to financial strain and disappointment. It can also have an impact on your physiological well-being. So false promise of relief from arthritis pain and symptoms can raise hopes and expectations. And it can also cause you to feel disappointed when that treatment fails to deliver the results it promised it would do. So this cycle of hope and disappointment can really take a toll on your mental health, which may lead to feelings of frustration, anxiety, and depression. It may also cause a loss of trust in healthcare providers. So if you encounter fake science that contradicts the medical advice or undermines the expertise of healthcare providers, you may lose trust in the medical community. And this could lead to disbelief towards evidence-based treatments and also cause a reluctance to seek help from qualified professionals. The next one is missed opportunities for effective management. So belief in fake science may lead you to overlook or dismiss proven strategies for managing your arthritis. And that could be, around medications or physical therapy and lifestyle modifications. So by foregoing these evidence-based approaches, you may miss out on opportunities to effectively manage your symptoms and improve your quality of life. All right, so now we're going to do another poll. I'm just going to get it up. So I would like you to submit what you think is the fake headline out of this. So I'm just going to launch this one. Now, do you think it's option one? Do you think the fake headline is NASA installing internet on the moon? Or do you think it's option two, that spinach is taught how to send emails? Or the third option is that a gorilla learns to knit. So which one do you think is the fake headline? So I've got a couple of results coming in. Thanks, everyone. All right. So I must say this one could be a little tricky. Oh, beautiful, the results are still coming in. I'll wait a couple of more seconds. All right, so 83% have selected option two, that spinach is taught how to send emails. We've got 17% selecting option one, which is NASA installing the internet on the moon. Okay, so what it is, the fake headline is that a gorilla learned to knit. So gorillas are really, really impressive, but they actually haven't mastered knitting yet. So this was a fake story that was posted online with an actual fake photo of a gorilla knitting. So this is just really like emphasizing that you can't actually believe everything you see and read online. So I will tell you the backstory of each little headline. So NASA, it is true, they're actually building a 4G network on the moon, which helps them control lunar robots, which is really, really cool. And then the second one, spinach, which I 110% believed that it was fake as well, but it's actually true. So scientists at MIT are doing something with spinach, and it's allowing them to learn more how they can warn about explosives. It's really, really interesting article and something to have a look at later on if you want to read more about it. But the gorilla one was fake, so that was a little bit tricky. All right. So now we're going to go into why people are drawn to fake science. So the first one is our cognitive biases. So this means our brain is wired in certain ways that leads us to believe in this fake science. And one common cognitive bias is that confirmation bias. So this means that we tend to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs or preferences while ignoring contradictory evidence. So if somebody already believes in a certain idea, they're more likely going to accept that information if it supports it, even if it's not actually based on solid evidence at all. The next one is our social influences. So we're social creatures and we look at others for that guidance and validation. So social influence plays a really significant role in why we're drawn to fake science. So for example, if our friends or family members or influential figures promote a particular belief or idea, we're more inclined to accept it as true, even if it lacks scientific validity. And this is really big when you see, a certain celebrity endorsing a product that they go, yeah, this works, this made me lose weight, or this made my skin look 10 years younger. People are more likely going to purchase that because that celebrity was endorsing it and it's somebody that they believe in. So it can be really, they know how to trick us to purchase that product or believe in that fake science. The third one is our desires for easy answers. So complex questions and problems can be really, really daunting, and our brains often prefer that simple and straightforward answers. So fake science often offers these easy answers, promising quick fixes or miracle cures for complex issues. So the appeal of simple and convenient answers can be really, really appealing, and it leads people to overlook that critical thinking and suspicion in favor of that immediate solution. The fourth one is emotional appeal. So fake science frequently relies on emotional appeal to capture people's attention and gather support. So messages that induce fear or hope or excitement can be really persuasive, and it taps into our emotions and it makes us stop critically evaluating it. So we are definitely more likely to believe in fake science if it has that promise from relief from pain, or it taps into our deeply held fears or desires. The next one is our lack of scientific literacy. So being able to understand scientific concepts and methods can be really quite challenging, and not everybody has that same level of scientific literacy. So people who can be less familiar with how science works or maybe more susceptible to believing that fake science, as they don't have the knowledge or skills to critically evaluate that information presented to them. Fake science knows this, and it can exploit this lack of understanding, and then it can present itself as credible when it's actually not at all. The next one is our trust in authority figures. So we do place a lot of trust in those authority figures, like we should, and this could be doctors, scientists, or experts in that particular field. However, fake science can really exploit this trust by misrepresenting or cherry picking, which Jess talked about, how they can grab certain bits of data and manipulate it to seem like it's credible when it's not. And it can do that by saying this information is correct when it supports its claims when it probably doesn't at all. So we're more likely to believe in that fake science if it appears it's come from trusted sources, even if those sources are being completely misrepresented or taken out of context. Now I'm going to pass it over to you all. If you want to chat, put it your answer in the chat box, or feel free to take yourself off mute. Have you come across fake science or misinformation? And if you have, was it something that grabbed your attention, or that sensational headline? I know for me personally, it's probably a lot of the misinformation and fake science that I saw in magazines or in newspapers or news stories is around coronavirus. That there was a lot of misrepresented information being, plastered all over the internet on a daily basis. But what about yourself, Jess, and what about everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with the coronavirus. There was certainly a lot of information coming up all the time. And I guess it probably, like you mentioned, some of those, the emotional aspect, the way that we're drawn to that information, I think they definitely played on that. It was good to see, I guess, some authorities sort of quickly trying to take down some of that information, but definitely still a lot of misinformation at that time.
It's like that coconut oil headline at the start of the webinar, this can cure viruses, and even the coronavirus, that's going to be something that it's like clickbaiting. People are going to click on it and want to read it and buy coconut oil because of that headline. But does anyone else want to share I guess, share experience if we come across it? Yeah.
I had the problem with all the information being given out, or misinformation that was being given about the drastic effects of vaccination for coronavirus. I know some of it is true. It's been proven. It was being presented as this is killing more than the coronavirus itself. And a lot of people were frightened off from vaccination because of that.
Yep. Oh, 100%, definitely. It's and it's those scare tactics, they're playing on people's fears and emotions that really drove those articles to come out. Absolutely. Yeah, Rosalind?
I'm on the spectrum, so I don't know when to jump in and when I talk too much. So I'll try and be quick. A friend of my partner's, old friends, like we're talking 40 years. They haven't got uni degrees and they wouldn't have got into uni. I'm not saying they're dumb, they're just really nice people. So worse luck, the lady and the guy got onto they're sovereign citizens now too, okay? They've gone all the way, nutshell. But these are really decent people, two great kids. We loved them, And then suddenly it started, this doctor said, so my bloke, he investigates stuff. He's really into all that. And this doctor was a doctor of literacy or something. Never, held a scalpel or read a medical text in their life. So he very politely checked it with me, messaged back and said, hey, Dee, this isn't actually a real medical doctor, but if you can come up with someone that is, I'm more than willing to listen. Well, we got abuse back and everything, and so that was two friends gone by the past. Dee, since probably about 6 months, contacted Stephen hesitantly, and we both went, no, they're like, what I hated, the coronavirus, it put just ordinary people over the line into sort of more Oh, whack jobs. I shouldn't use that term. I can't think of another. I've finished that bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosalind. Thanks for sharing, everyone. All right, so hierarchy of reliable resources. So I just we're going to go through each of these individually, and I just really want to say, like, all of these here are great places to go to get the reliable resources as well. So the first one that we're going to discuss is peer-reviewed journals. So they're like the gold standard in science. Jess mentioned them earlier. You know, the published research papers and that have been checked by other experts in the field to make sure that they're really accurate and trustworthy. And it just helps ensure that that research is credible and reliable. So the next place that you can go for up-to-date information is government agencies. So there are, the first one is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is CDC, or the National Institute of Health, so NIH. So they provide trustworthy information that's backed by scientific evidence. They're dedicated to public health and have experts who review and approve that information they release. So they actually collect and share information about important topics like health, safety, and the environment as well. The next one is universities and research institutions. So they conduct studies and publish the findings of those studies as well. So look for information from reputable universities or well-known research institutions to find that credible information. The next one is our medical associations. So there is an Australian one, which is the Australian Medical Association, and then you've got the American version or the British version. So they represent medical professionals in the field, and they provide reliable information based on the latest research and guidelines in the medical field. So they can provide reliable information on topics like disease prevention, treatment options, and public health initiatives. And the next place that you can go to is science-based websites and publications. So these focus on science and research. So the first one is the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, which you would all know as CSIRO. Then there's the Australian Science Media Centre, or the Australia National Geographic, or ABC Science. So these usually provide accurate and up-to-date information, and they do have experts reviewing the content before it's published as well. So it's worth noting, and particularly for some of them down the bottom of the pyramid, the information that they put out is based on a range of research and studies. So they may not always be able to conduct their own research, but they do draw their information and guidance and recommendations from a wide range of those other resources here. So this often is because that information tends to be more readily available to the public, and all of these resources here are a great way for you to access reliable resources and information. And it's far more reliable than jumping on Wikipedia or just searching in Google and going into some random sketchy website that's trying to sell you something. All right. So now we're going to go on to how you can critically evaluate that scientific information that you read. So it doesn't require a science degree at all, and it's all about using some critical thinking skills to ask the right questions or consider the reliability of the information. So the first one is to check the source. Look where it's coming from. Is it a well-known scientific organisation, like a government organisation or university? You know, exactly like here, does it come from one of these sources? These coming from those resources, they have a track record of producing accurate and trustworthy information. So you know if you go there, you're going to get pretty much up-to-date and safe information to read. The next one, which we keep saying, so I'll just briefly touch this one, make sure it's peer reviewed. And that's just, you know, it's been evaluated by other experts in the field. This just adds that extra layer of reliability to the information that's presented. The next one is the methodology. So do you know how the research was conducted? So the methods. So researchers often consider things like having a control group of people and then in their study, and also an experimental group. So a matching group of people that the experiment group can be compared with, that's the control group. So they usually do the research and do some of the experiments on the experimental group, and then they compare it to the control group that hasn't, you know, done any of that research. So this looks for ways to implement the intervention. So the participants or those delivering the research don't know who the experiment and the control groups are. And this helps reduce bias from those involved as well. Another thing to point out with consider the methodology is have the confounding factors being considered. So this refers to other factors that compete with the intervention in explaining some of the outcomes. So an example of this could be a study that looks at sunburns and ice cream consumption. And it found that it finds that higher ice cream consumption is associated with a higher probability of sunburn. So do the researchers conclude that eating ice cream causes sunburn? Or is there another reason for this correlation? So while you may not always be able to review and analyze the methodology of certain research studies, it's really, really important to just be aware that reliable research often follows strict scientific methodologies to make sure the results are accurate. If the methods are really unclear or really poorly executed, it may raise your doubts to whether the findings of it are actually correct. Another thing to look for is to evaluate the sample size. So the size of a study's population can really, really impact the reliability of the results. So generally, a larger sample size provides way more reliable data. If a study has a small sample size, it may not actually be representative of the whole broader population, which can lead to misleading conclusions. So it's really good to see a study that has a really large sample size because you think it's going to cover a lot of the population. So this is something to look for. The next one is conflicts of interest. So consider whether the researchers or the organisation that funds that study have any conflicts of interest. So, for example, are they associated with a company that could benefit from the study's results? Conflicts of interest can really bias the findings and undermine the credibility of that research. And the next one is to look for consistency. So really compare that information with existing knowledge and other reliable sources. So what you read in a study, is that is it being supported by other experts in the field? Because consistency across lots of different research really, really adds weight to the reliability of the information that you've read. And then this is a really important one, is consider that tone and language. So pay attention to how it's being presented, that information. Is it objective and actually based on evidence, or is it using sensationalized language or making those really exaggerated claims? Reliable sources tend to present information in a really balanced and factual manner. And the next one is to check other studies. If you're unsure about the reliability of the information, check if other sources have similar findings. So reliable scientific findings are often supported by multiple studies or confirmed by other experts in the field. And that is it. All right, I'm just going to turn the recording off so we can have a chat